Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, August 4th, 2024. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your weekly horoscopes. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the transits coming up this week. Then we're going to look at, good morning, Catherine. We're going to do an angel reading and pull a tarot card for each sign. This is based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about a sign, I'm talking about Aries rising, Taurus rising, and that's the first house and dictating the chart. These videos are also applicable for sun and moon, and if you have a stellium in any one sign or house, this is applicable to you as well. We are going into what I think is this month is just hot, hot, hot. Honestly, the transits are really powerful. They can be a bit disruptive. I'm not going to say they can't, but also those that are standing in awareness, I think, have great opportunity here. Good morning, Margie. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so today is August 4th. It's a huge day, really. We started it at 4:13 a.m. We had a new moon in Leo. And if you guys haven't had a chance to check out your monthly horoscopes, they are up, and I talk about this pretty extensively at the beginning of each video, because the first week of August it really bleeds into the second week. Like the whole first half is being teed up right now. Mercury is going to go retrograde later today. It's about 9:30, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Now, I study and I do charts, and I'm always looking at different people's theories of stuff. And I just realized that Mercury is exalted in Virgo. I mean, I know I think about it. I know it's the ruler of that, but it didn't connect in my head. So when I started doing August monthly videos, I'm seeing Mercury going into its exaltation, into its rulership of Virgo. And it met in a yod with Pluto and Neptune. And I don't know if y'all know what a yod is, but a yod is where two quincunxes create a focal point or an apex to a planet. And those two planets that are quincunx are in a sextile. So it's like a skinny triangle. We had Mercury go through this point direct. So there's Pluto bringing up the underbelly. There's Neptune moving the fog, bringing up the fog, making us aware of maybe some deceptions or illusions, or where people have been, a little too loosey-goosey and we can't really connect. Mercury, our thoughts, our things, the people we interact with. Now we have Venus in this position. Venus is here today. She's at 29 degrees, and Mercury is going to retrograde. These two planets, Venus and Mercury, are going to become conjunct. They hit conjunction at 3 degrees on, where was it? My note. On the 7th, okay. 3 degrees is the Gemini degree of thought. And Mercury is heading back to the yod, okay, where it's going to be 0 degrees retrograde, where there's going to be, this is what I think of this. The quincunxes present sort of a blind spot, and there's tension attached to the blind spot, because I'm like driving a car down the street and I know I'm coming up on a point I cannot see, but I still can't do anything about it. I can't get any more information with my eyes, with my ears. So now I have to depend on what I know on the inside. Neptune and Pluto. Oh my goodness, this is so powerful, because as Venus goes over this point this week, I just got chills everywhere. The feminine aspect is clearly going to be on the table. Money is going to be on the table. Our self-worth and self-respect and our ability to discern that which is our self-respect and that which is assigned to us by others, because other people may not show respect, and that does not mean you don't deserve it. And the discernment between that is going to be very important, powerful, and palatable this week. So then on top of all Mercury retrograding and Venus in this yod, we have what is just so powerful. Mars and Jupiter are growing into a conjunction in Gemini. Gemini again rules our thoughts. It's ruled by Mercury. So we have this, we can see the Mercury theme underneath it. We can see the short bits of information. Now, Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment. We know that because Jupiter's all about the big philosophical thoughts, looking at the big picture. Now, Mercury gets those little bits of information that might be incomplete because Mercury is moving so quickly. Now, in this fusion of Mars and Jupiter, we could be annoyed or feel inflamed because we are not feeling like we're getting a whole picture. Mercury retrograde, while this, and Mercury's like stationing. It's not even moving quickly. It's slowing down to move retrograde. So this is like Mercury standing in the sky. I think this is so powerful because this conjunction that grows, it's at, I think today, I think Mars is at like 15 degrees or 16 degrees. So it's going to become exact next week. But as they get closer, both planets are squaring Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So we see this Mars wanting to go and move forward and venture past. We see Jupiter sort of trying to wrap its head around the small details. We see Mercury revisiting some details and recalibrating the information. And then we see Neptune sort of really asking us, can you see everything? Can your physical body take in all the information? Or are Pluto and Neptune in that yod, not only to Venus, but now to Mercury, going in for the second time? The sun will later move through that yod as well. And these three planets are pivotal to our personal experience. So I think this is so huge. Where I was going is, I just want to be very clear, is that sometimes I think right now we're being called upon to listen to that inner voice. The inner voice that says, I have to still the outside experience. I have to find a place to quiet the information that's coming at me so that I can discern the information from an intuitive place, from my gut, from my inner knowing, because everything is super foggy right now. And at the same time, the more Pluto makes its retrograde back into Capricorn, the more the bubbling up of that underbelly, the inevitable bringing up of something that is not working within those last degrees of Capricorn and the structure that Capricorn represents. So if there are people that you know that oppose some of your belief systems, or people who tend to get inflamed easily, it might be a good time to just sort of, be mindful of this, because I really do think that on some level there are unavoidable moments, and the awareness in the moment gives you choice in your action or reaction. I think that Mars is growing conjunction with Jupiter is really speaking of passion, and passion that is born from frustration. And the frustration is born from Pluto and Neptune bringing up this sort of, where have we been bamboozled, or where have we been getting information that feels contrived, or we're in a time when I get on these videos with you guys and I never look at them again. As you can tell, if you are a Cancer, you heard me early on screw up and to call it Gemini in the monthlies. I don't do any fancy stuff here, right? It's just me doing me. But most everybody has editing and this and that. And so the reason I bring all this up is because it makes it even more palatable and important to listen to an inner voice that says, wait a minute, I need to pause for a minute so that I can recalibrate and receive information from a place that I trust. And everybody should be able to trust themselves and their inner knowing. And if you haven't been trusting it, then start practicing that, because you're going to need it. You're really going to need it moving forward. Okay, so some of the key points. Again, we had a new moon in Leo. That new moon made positive aspects. It was at 12 degrees of Leo, and it made positive aspects to Jupiter. Mars is a little bit out of bounds there, but it's still there. So it's planting the seeds for expansion, for being able to incorporate the bigger concepts into my everyday life. We see that Mercury has gone retrograde. Well, it will go retrograde later today. It's going from 4 degrees of Virgo all the way back to 21 degrees of Leo. Mercury and Venus will be exact. Mercury will be retrograde. Venus will be moving forward in Virgo at 3 degrees on the 7th. Now, Venus is in fall in Virgo. She's not sexy. She's very practical. She's very logical. She's very service oriented. And so within that, her mind is going to start to revisit all the things that she values in the way of practicality and what she can depend on and how she can plan for the future. And this Mercury retrograde going over this yod is like, this is what I want to be very clear about. Spirit never wants us to abandon the human experience and become overly spiritual, sit on a mountain in the lifetime. It is a combination. It's an integration so that we can use our inner knowing and produce results in the material world that allow us to feel that exhilaration. So that's why I bring this up. We want to do our best to incorporate. And the only way to incorporate is not try to ascend, but to be aware. And in that awareness is karma, and karma is choice. So it's just a huge thing. And let me just, I don't know if I've said it enough. The Jupiter and Mars conjunction is squaring Saturn. Saturn rules government, rules leadership, authority, ambition, drive, fear, repression, limitation, oppression. I said oppression. And so there we have expansion in Jupiter, contraction in Mars. Mars is retrograding in a sign that is calling forth an opportunity for us to be aware of our spiritual and the divinity within and to anchor into that. Each one of us building the strength of that Saturn in Pisces will help those squares be more productive for us versus feeling like, we're just feeling oppression or obligation, or I've got to do this because I'm this, or I've got to do this because I'm that. There's just all these things coming up. So very, very powerful. And next week on the 13th and the 14th, and I bring this up now because, forewarned is forearmed. When Jupiter and Mars come absolutely conjunct at 16 degrees, that's the Cancerian degree of patriotism and home and hearth. And people, I think, will be extremely impassioned. I think they'll be extremely impassioned by the political landscape. And we also will be walking into the Democratic National Convention. So we see even more passion and more when I say passion, I almost feel like passion is where I'm standing in a bit of a taking no prisoners energy right now. Mars is not passion all the time like Mars is passion like I'm right. So being aware of the people in your life that think you're right, they're right. I'm one of those people in everybody's life. I always think I'm right. The pleasures of being Teri Hunter. Okay, now one other quick thing, and then we'll go on to the readings. What we experience in Mars's square to Jupiter. Now, the first time we experience it, Mars is in square to Jupiter. No, Mars is in conjunction to Jupiter. Both planets are in square to Saturn. Thank you. Mars will mosey on, but Jupiter and Saturn are going to remain in a dance. Jupiter will retrograde in the end of the year. I don't have the dates on me, but they will, Saturn and Jupiter will become square again in December when Jupiter is retrograde. And then in January, when Jupiter's moved forward, they will square again. So whatever's happening this week will be teeing up those moments as well. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And what I'm going to do when I do the readings today is I'm going to tell you what house Gemini is for you, because of all the things going on, And again, I want to encourage you to watch the monthly because there's stuff going on with Pluto and Jupiter that's playing in the background, like the muzak in an office building. So as we can hear the different notes of the planets playing around us, we can more easily tune into those that feel palatable to the ear versus those that scratch like it. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with our Leo babies because it's Leo season. And happy birthday to everybody that's having a birthday this week or this month or within the Leo season. We are talking about Leo rising as dictating the chart. This is also sun, moon, and stelliums. Your tarot card is the Queen of Cups. This is very emotional queen. She's a very nurturing queen. She's very much self-assured because she understands the ebb and the flow of emotions. And so she knows how to, when the tide feels low, she knows how to focus on what's sitting at her feet, the sea glass there and all the different colors. And she also is aware that, you know, when we think about the cup energy, we naturally think of the moon and emotions. And the moon, from Earth, we only really ever see one side of the moon. And the other side is dark and considered very cold. And I think that represents the side that's within us that can sometimes feel that we are alone or that we are isolated in our emotions. And with Leo being a sign that represents self-expression, represents fun and enjoyment, and, you know, it's all the kind of the best things of the human experience. Happy birthday, Queen Leo. Everybody, happy birthday. I think it's important for you to allow yourself the privilege of sort of going inside and knowing that no matter what's happening in the outside world, it's you have the opportunity to be emotionally present for yourself. And in doing so, find some solace, some comfort. Again, August in general is a big month of people sort of, I almost feel like people will barf their opinions without asking, or they'll make comments that seem so contrary to what their principles apparently stand for. And as you're aware of that contrariness, you can really kind of understand at a deeper level, and not emotionally connect. She's a master of her emotions. She's a master of understanding her intuition because she understands she'll never master it. And so she looks at her cup with a bit of ease. I also think it's important to note that the cup has these little, what looks like angels. Do you see them? These big wings on the cup. So this is again referring kind of to connecting with spirit, connecting with your higher self, Leo. And I want to offer it this way because your higher self may sound like your human body, but you'll get used to the rhythm of how the subtle nuances of you and your higher self being the same yet different. Let's pull a spread. Oh, and Leo, this Gemini for you is in your 11th house. So the Mars and Jupiter conjunction is happening within that broad, on the internet, the people you socialize on the internet, the people you interact with in the groups you interact with. You could see something involving your hopes and your dreams. You could feel like a movement starts to happen. But I really want to caution you because I don't know that I feel like this Mars-Jupiter conjunction always feels personal. I mean, you'd have to look at your own chart. But on the outside, if you think about the 11th house and you think about that it represents space and the future and technology, and it represents innovation. So there could be things that happen. I mean, you could have frustrations with the Mercury retrograde with your computer. So let's see where maybe the focus is going to be. If it wasn't for the square to Saturn, I would be thinking that the Mars Jupiter could be kind of beneficial, make you brave and expanding your beliefs. But with the square to Saturn, it feels like something is hitting me that's trying to hold me back, limit me, repress me. I feel obligated to. I feel like I have to do it. I don't want to do it, or I have to think a certain way. So this might be where, again, Leo is going into the 11th house is the opposite of your natural house, by the way, too. But we're talking about Gemini. So I don't want to confuse you. For Leo rising, Gemini is your 11th house. Yes, we do love you, Queen Leo. And we're so happy that you're celebrating your solar return with us. Okay. Our first angel is Layla, spending time in nature, talking to God. Fiona is saying, now that you ask God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. Rochelle is saying to follow your heart, that new prosperity is offered to you. And Rosetta is talking about the energy of children. Let's see if that's an energy that children coming for you or the child within. All right. Layla is being joined by the hawk, which is an 11. So this is about rising above and looking for signs and omens. We have the stag, which is about leadership. We have Rochelle, which is about, Rochelle is being joined by the Grail Knight, which is about seeking the sacred. It's also about romance and illusion. And then we have Rosetta and the novice. You know, sometimes when I think about Rosetta, when I see her, often I think of the inner child who's so innocent that it trusts from a place that has not been dinged by the human experience yet. So I want to offer it this way. I think what I'm looking at is, for my Leos, this is an opportunity to really go into your emotional body and see even more succinctly what it is that you want. And you know, this queen is gazing at this cup and the angels are on that cup. Now we have God and the angels asking you to continue to talk and look for the signs and the omens that you've been heard. There's interesting, when I talk about signs and omens, you know, rarely is it a burning bush. It is a subtlety that will hit you that other people will hear and not think it's a sign or an omen at all. Because now I think that this stag is twofold. I think that Fiona is saying, now that you ask God and the angels for help, Leo, don't be looking at the clock and going, well, it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. Because this could be a little bit about being stubborn. About being stubborn. You know, now take leadership in that you're going to have an illumination and you haven't been watching for the signs and the omens, or if you have been, there are more signs and omens coming. Trusting your heart, going like this, literally the Grail Knight is bowing down to this sword. The sword represents his ability to protect what is sacred, but it also represents the mind. So now when I bow down to the idea that my mind is an apparatus, or my brain is an apparatus, and my mind is my consciousness, my awareness, and as I use my heart to focus my consciousness, then I become a knight of the round table. And I don't mean it in a way for others. I mean it in a way that when you stand for the wants and desires, that's the 11th house, Gemini. As you start to think, I'm going to be more brave. I'm going to start that Patreon account. I'm going to expand whatever my presence is. You could find yourself in an opportunity to expand your tribe through your sort of playful energy. I think that Rosetta is representing the child that Leo represents, you know, the inner child. And then we have this novice, this skill without practice, unstable new beginning, a new journey. And the journey is, I also want to say this because I know that when you watch certain things on these platforms and with the media, it becomes really overwhelming sometimes, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so vulnerable to what could, you know, happen outside. When you connect with spirit, you'll feel a certain insulation as if you're representing a contrasting experience to that which is feeling like a wave, like I can't avoid it. And that's where I think you have so much opportunity. And if you are of childbearing years and you want to bring a child into the world, this could very well be a time when the signs and the omens are coming. I think a lot of kids are going to want to be birthed next year while Jupiter is in Cancer. I think it's very fortuitous, and a lot of people will end up getting pregnant as Jupiter ends its journey through Gemini, and Gemini represents twins and childhood. And anyway, I know it's not Gemini is not considered a sexy or a physical that way, but there's layers to everything. All right, we're going on to our Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Your Gemini house is the 10th house of career, ambition, of how people see you, your reputation. Wow, Lucy. That's a lot. You've got Neptune all over. Is that Neptune? Oh, no, 1 degree Pisces. Sorry. It's I really want to, I don't want to push one thing away for the other. I really do believe it's an integration, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the soul experiences its true evolution and power and co-creation. So those dips that we have, those disruptions, they have a purpose. And when we look at for the purpose, then we can avoid them. Gemini can be a sexy kitty. Oh, and very, very flirtatious, but we don't always assign Gemini to bearing children. We do assign Gemini to having sex with many people. Pardon me, I just licked my finger. I got honey on it. All right. I'm feeling very, very relaxed today. All right, let's see what our tarot card is for our Virgos. Rising, moon, oh, money. There it is. This is straight up money. The guy is making money. He is not a novice. He is a master. He's going back. He's done his first draft, and now he's looking at the fine details. Well, if that isn't a Mercury retrograde, I don't know what is, which is a review of some kind. Looking back, potentially resting, reevaluating, recalibrating, and then money. Yeah, the 8 of Pentacles is money. Yes, take that money. Okay, where are we going? Let's see. Because I want to offer this, we're looking at Venus coming into a conjunction with Mercury. Venus moving forward, Mercury moving direct. Sorry, Venus moving forward, Mercury moving retrograde. I don't know what's going on with my brain. I don't know why it says one thing and I catch it so quickly. Why can't I just get the right thing out at the right time? Venus is money. So very much thoughts of resources, thoughts of how to capitalize on that, reevaluating how the money that you are making, is it serving you? Again, this is in a yod. That transit yod is very powerful. That apex, that focal point is where God is asking you to dig deep in what your truth is. Are you not boring anymore as a Gemini sun? I think also that sometimes we're, depending upon the aspects, things are dumbed down. And I have a client who has an Aries stellium, and she's not Aries very at all, because her moon is in Libra conjunct Rahu, and it has a whole different effect. It really dumbs down all her stellium in Aries. I think the moon is super powerful. If you look at your dynamics, my moon is lonely. It's over there all by itself on one side of the chart. And what it does is it makes an opposition to Mercury, and it makes an opposition to Neptune. And so who I am has always been in opposition to the crowd. The theory is if you're born in a Mercury retrograde, it works for you. That's what they say. But I really don't think Mercury retrogrades are bad. I think that if anything, they might be good, because Mercury moves so fast that it misses things. It's a Twitter feed. X. I really liked the name Twitter better. I can't seem to give up for X is a boring name. So sometimes you miss things in these short bits. So I think a Mercury retrograde could be where your soul has intended to incarnate so that you will re-examine your mind or re-examine the things that other people are teaching you. Again, it rules teaching, speaking, the media, short bits of information. It rules the pause. It rules the mute button on my remote when I mute those commercials that talk about aging and all that other nonsense. Well, depending upon how, if your father, not just being older, but it could also, your mom could have Saturn in her love sector or in her seventh house, but also sometimes, people take on the role of parent and they either become too much of a serious person or they become too much of a friend. And I think it's sort of this, again, it's an integration of some kind. I never was a parent. I've only been an animal parent because frankly, being a parent was a daunting idea. I was not an easy child to raise, and I was afraid I would get one of me, and that scared me, frankly. All right. Virgo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Bridget's asking you to look deeper. We're going into a retrograde, your ruling planet, and exalted again. So there's a double whammy, which makes Mercury in Virgo much more powerful than it is in Gemini. All right. Then we're looking at Teresa, which is about worry and your opportunity or obstacle. Serafina offers a happy addition coming to your family. And then we have Rochelle about following your heart. Now, I want to offer this. We're looking at Gemini being your 10th house of ambition, of career, of your public status and your reputation. We have Jupiter, which represents expansion. Now, those that are brave, that's Mars, will walk away from anybody who's acting lower Mars or not engaging in a lower Mars energy, which could actually help change your personal reputation. And if it doesn't on the outside, it could very much represent a feeling on the inside that then you start to demonstrate on the outside. And as we get to the end of the month, Jupiter and Mars will be starting to spread themselves out and it won't be so tense. Okay. Now we have Bridget and being joined by the horse. We have Teresa being joined by the earth fairy. We have Serafina being joined by the dog. And we have Rochelle being joined by the communications card. As I look at this, I want to offer this because I think that the 8 is really representing details. Good morning, DJ. It's good to see you in the room. Good morning, everybody. If I didn't say hi to everybody, good morning, Small. Good morning, Jules. This card, while it is literally a card of making money, it's also about paying attention to the details. Now, the horse represents the angelic realm, the Sagittarian energy, and this is also about delegating to other people. I believe that this is about delegating to source because when I look at this, I wonder if Virgo is not inadvertently looking at resources, looking at potentials and projecting into the future with a little bit of a wobble or a little bit of a worry or what if, because here's Teresa about worry. And then there's the earth fairy, which is about the ground you stand on. Now I have the dog and Serafina in the Angel's Advice representing unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. And this is kind of where I go down and I think to myself, Virgo, you're the type of energy that even when things get tough, you'll figure something out, a plan of some kind. But this time, I think that what's going on is you're, again, being tasked to go into your heart. That's Neptune's retrograde, Pluto representing your underbelly of whatever your psychological underbelly is, as it is making quincunxes up to Venus right now and then to Mercury. That's going to happen in the next, I don't know, where's my notes? Did I put that one down? So this week we'll be creeping towards that. By the time we get to 3 degrees, Mercury will feel that apex, that focal point of, where is things too foggy? Where is this underbelly of me feeling insecure about money? Pluto rules money too. And if you can identify that potentially there's things outside of you that are stoking that fear, and then you go into yourself and you go, you know what? I always know how to get myself out. I always have, I always will. And you start that self-talk. and then things you'll be able to represent. And that's why I think this is about being loyal to the family of your brain. I know, I look at things very different, okay? I don't look at things happening to me. I look at things around me as presenting a landscape for me to be aware of how I process on the inside. And through the inside process, I can influence the outcome or the potential outcome, at least how I perceive it. So I think that that's where we're headed. And that's why we're looking at the details. That's why we're reviewing. That's why Virgo is having an opportunity when it's in so much power to actually address that issue and address it in a way that transforms Neptune's energy from wanting to escape or being too loosey-goosey. Virgo could very much, because Pisces is the opposite sign, think, oh, you're airy-fairy. That's not realistic. I'm not going to sit on a couch and call for clients. I need to go do things. This could be where you realize it's a twofer. The first one is connecting with that airy fairy Neptune energy before going into your actions is more powerful than just pushing. Okay, hope that made sense. Onward and upward. Can you hear my new wind chime? I don't know what happened since Jupiter moved into my third house, but I got to tell you, I feel very spendy. I can't decide if it's because I paid off a credit card. I feel like I won money. And so if you pay it off, then the bill is less. But I've been a little bit, spendy. And I bought myself a chime, one I've wanted for a long time. It's actually called Neptune. It's by this company called Woodstock. It's super big. So I don't know if you can hear it, but it makes a more deeper tone. I love it. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Gemini is your 9th house. This is where the conjunction between Jupiter and Mars is taking place. Okay. Not an easy energy. 5 of Swords. This is where you win the war, but it doesn't feel necessarily good, and you're not necessarily in favor. So let's see what this is about, because this could either be this could be an energy around you, or it could be how you're feeling about something. Let's see. It's getting hot in here. We know we have the South Node going through your first house. And, the South Node is really, again, these erosive planets and energies are not really erosive. They appear erosive to the human mind, because the human somehow thinks that I want to get from A to B, and I don't want to have to walk through a lot of nonsense on the way. And yet the nature of the accomplishment is not really completely served unless you walk through some nonsense. So the South Node in Libra in your first house might be saying, where are you overly cooperative in your relationships to the detriment of yourself? And are you willing to, because Libra naturally will give itself up. So I don't think the South Node is asking you to dig deeper into giving yourself up. That would be, you'd be invisible. You'd evaporate. No, I think it's the opposite. I think that South Node in Libra, especially for Libra rising, is saying, step up, use your talents, be diplomatic. But diplomacy involves both people winning. Libra's the ultimate win-win sign. So the South Node could be very much saying, if you're giving yourself up, there's no win-win, and it's not going to feel good. And Queen Leo 5 life path is all about independence and freedom, expression. It's really kind of like that. It's after you break the life path 4 box, it's all like new adventures. All right, here we go. Libra, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Pardon me. Adriana says she's leading you to the answers to your prayers. Then we have Teresa, all about worry. Well, isn't that nice? Because that's my name, Teresa. I'm a Libra sun, and I'm learning not to worry about other people or anything. Bridget's about looking deeper, and Oceana is about trusting your gut. Okay, I'm telling you right now, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just, single-minded. But I really believe that the more we can trust that inner knowing right now, the one that starts off feeling makes you feel sick, you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Why is that? Why is that? I don't care what the information is coming at you. I don't care if someone's saying, here, eat this banana, and you're like, oh, I don't know. I never get out, right? And I finally went out and had lunch with a friend of mine this week, and we pigged out. And when we went to this restaurant, and we ordered clam chowder and many, many other things, but I will not tell you what those are. I looked at that bowl of clam chowder and I thought to myself, it looks kind of funny. But I didn't do anything about it. Just blew that off and ate it right down. A few hours later, I was not feeling very well. And I was not feeling very well yesterday. And my friend wasn't either. And that was the only thing we really had in common that we ate was the clam chowder. So these are the subtle things, okay? Had I looked down at it and I said, I don't know if this is going to work for me, probably not, because we don't do that. We go to a restaurant, we order it, we eat it. These are the little subtleties that we have to listen to these days that you may feel contempt about, Libra. You may feel like, oh, people won't like me. I won't be as likable. You need to start thinking about who you want to like you. It doesn't happen very often, but I thought it was rather ironic, honestly. And it wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't fun, but it wasn't like the worst that it could have been way worse. And luckily, I had all sorts of things in my house to help me. I have celery and I had my gut repair. And so I was okay. All right, here we go. Adriana for my Libras is leading you to a rebirth of some kind. That would be the South Node in your first house. Teresa is working on you with your mind and your thoughts. Mercury, thank you very much. Bridget's asking you to, Bridget's being joined by the fire fairy. So she's wanting you to look for where you find passion in your creativity. And Oceana is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Okay. So what I think this Five of Swords could be is a potential that you, Libra, inadvertently defer. Now, not every Libra I'm a Libra sun, and I have Mars conjunct my sun. I'm not a real cooperative Libra, but that could also be my Aries rising. My point is this Five of Swords could infer that you worry about contempt, that you worry that if you assert yourself, people will not respond. We look at the guy holding the swords that's won the battle. He's wearing a red underneath shirt and his legs. Then we see the green tunic. So he has won something that he finds of value, and the others have had to turn away. Adriana is leading you to a rebirth, and that rebirth may be very much not worrying about other people who say to you, well, if you loved me, you'd do this for me. Anybody who really loves you will never ask you to sacrifice your desires, your wants, those are self-serving things. The opposite will happen. They will give you wings to fly, because here is this, in the angel's advice, is the fire fairy and looking deeper. And I think that it's important for Libra to express their creativity. I'm a kind of a double Venus. So I'm a mad mix. I have a rising is Mars, but my moon is ruled by Venus, and so is my sun. I'm constantly messing around in my house, moving things around, redecorating, buying things I don't need because, that'll look good for this season. It's stupid. But my point is this, because as a Libra, I want you to trust that inner knowing, that sort of, like, I kind of want to offer it this way. You may fear other people will not be happy with you if you put yourself first. But if you put yourself first, they may be happier than you think they'll be. Because here's all about self-respect, taking care of your truth. And then this is Oceana, trusting that sort of soul's inner knowing. Now, this is what I want to offer. It's so much fun to be around people who are excited about their lives, that are passionate, that have like, wow, I did this today. And even if that thing may feel like it initially threatens a situation, the joy or the excitement that you come into a situation will start to mitigate your fears. And then I think you'll find that people will appreciate you rather than feel annoyed. And if someone does feel annoyed, well, maybe they're not. Maybe they need a rebirth in your life. Sometimes some people just got to go. I'm sorry. That's kind of how I feel about it. I slipped. I have a sailor's mouth, honestly. I find the F word to be quite a joyous word to use. There's so many ways to use it. You can use it when you're happy. You can use it when you're sad. You can use it when you're mad, when you're frustrated. I mean, it's just such a versatile word. So it does tend to roll off my tongue. All right, here we go. I'm getting that giddy feeling again. So versatile, isn't it? It should be like literally, it should be the first word in the dictionary. If you need the most versatile word in any language, that would be it. Because isn't it the same in any language? Is it not pronounced the same in every single language? I'd be curious to know that. Is there another word for the F word in Japanese or in, I don't know, Russian? Is there? Oh, there is. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. I wonder if it has the same oomph when it comes out of the mouth. Because Heller doesn't sound very satisfying. Folkery does. Folkery. Okay, I digress. I do that often. Funkery? How funny is that? Okay, on to our Scorpios, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Gemini is your 8th house of transformation. And we see the Knight of Pentacles. This is a very steady energy. It's a very predictable energy. You don't see much movement here. So let's see where we're going. Okay. I don't know why that, I don't know. Do you guys know actually how the finger, how that worked, how this became a symbol for the F word? Do you guys know that? Because I'll tell you the story. It's kind of funny. There used to be a show on TV called Drunken History. Have you guys ever heard of that show? It was commentated by someone, and then 2 celebrities would drink, and then they would tell a story of history. Okay, so you know the show? It was so funny. All right, sorry for all of you. You can fast forward. We have timestamps. We'll come back in a second to Scorpio. So back in the day, you shot a bow and arrow. That was before guns, right? And if you wanted to cripple somebody, you chopped off their finger, right? This finger, because they couldn't pull the bow and arrow. So when someone saw someone and they wanted to let them know that don't mess with me, they would go like this to show that they could knock them. So that's how it all started. And I learned it on Drunken History. Okay. Back to Scorpio. This could be about stubbornness. This could be about a lack of movement. This could be, let's see where we're going. Isn't it funny to hear? I love history. There's so many things that you find out that you never knew. And things that you just assumed because you didn't get the whole story. Me too. I was watching a couple weeks ago. I was very compelled to watch a documentary on Abraham Lincoln. Now, I started with one on the Civil War, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I was actually looking for him as a president. And I was really surprised to hear about what the focus. I didn't recognize or realize that the Civil War did not start initially because we wanted to free the slaves. It had a whole different agenda. And that was very interesting to me to learn. But anyway, we'll save that story for another time. If you want, you can look it up. I watched it on YouTube. All right, Scorpio, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We've got Bridget looking deeper into a situation. We've got Oceana calling you to look into your heart. We have Ray saying connect to spirit. And then we have Archangel Michael talking about protection and courage. I think Scorpio is the most intuitive sign. And I think that because, when we think about the water signs, we've got Pisces that's all empathetic and, feels sorry for somebody and buys their story. Then we have, no offense to Pisces everywhere, I'm just talking about the lower side of it. Then we have Cancer, who can be all focused on someone else. And I love you. Let me do for you, do for you, do for you. Scorpio's not like that. Scorpio's like, let me examine the situation. And they can see the underbelly. That's why it rules criminal behavior and manipulation, because it knows how to kind of twist you if it wants to be challenging. So when a Scorpio has all that information and then uses their energy for a higher vibration, you're magnificent. I mean, literally, it's why you rule billionaires. It's why you rule power and control. And as you start to connect those things in a way that comes from, abundance versus fear, you really can be very magical. And you can also be scary as all shit. Pardon my language again. All right, here we go. Bridget's being joined by the love card. Oceana's being joined by the frog. Ray's being joined by the goblin. And we have Archangel Michael being joined by the horse. Okay. So this is where I'm going. This actually feels a little bit like a lack of movement. It could be, and I almost feel as I said that Spirit said, because Scorpio, stop and look. Stop and survey the land for a minute. Here we have Bridget asking to look deeper, and there we have the love card. And I don't think this is a look deeper into the object of your affection. I think this is more looking deeper into love as a vibration. Love as a vibration is really more about faith. It's about ebb and flow. It's about understanding, that sometimes we have a dip. That dip takes us into a higher awareness, because Oceana is talking and the frog are talking about going into that intuitive knowing. The challenging side of Scorpio is that when you get pissed, you just stay pissed. And, if you're a little bit earthbound, and this would indicate Scorpio being a little bit potentially earthbound. Now let's just go back to the transits. Gemini is your 8th house of other people's money, and other people, this is the way I want to put it. Jupiter's expansion, so that's kind of good. But Mars right now could have people frustrated with how things are rolling or their projection, because we have the goblin and we have Ray in the angel's advice. And this would be about Scorpio going back and connecting to a deeper inner knowing and saying to yourself, am I looking too much at things sort of like, flat, or are there different hues going on right now? Because here is Archangel Michael, not only protection, but also courage. And I think that courage is to trust your connection to the angelic realm. I'm seeing this very much as Sagittarian and moving in that direction. So we go from a horse that is standing completely still and not almost feeling like I can't move, to a horse that is moving at a much more rapid pace. And I think that's because, I want to offer it this way for my Scorpios. One of the things, being an Aries rising, and Scorpio, Mars also is your planet, is that I always want I want instant gratification. If I buy something, sometimes I will buy something on Amazon for $25 and I'll spend $12 to get it delivered because I just want it now. I'm just a dumbass like that, okay? I understand now that there's more of an ebb and a flow, because what I'm seeing here is that Scorpio has an opportunity to dig into their heart, their mind, their gut, and say, what do I think is real? I think what I'm feeling on the inside is real. And even though I don't see any movement of it on the outside, maybe something better is happening in the meantime. So if we kind of do a review, as Mercury will give us an opportunity to do, we can look and see where there were times when maybe you wanted a certain outcome and you wanted it now. And then you went, wow, I'm really glad it didn't happen the way I wanted it, because it turned out better than I thought. So now Spirit's saying to Scorpio, have the courage to trust your bigger picture. Look deeper into what it is that you want, because, you could be wanting, let's say you play the lottery like Teri and you say, oh, I want to win $1 million, but, wouldn't you rather win $10 million? Oh, yeah, of course I would. Of course I would. But I only thought I could win $1 million. So I only asked for that. Don't let your ego get in the way. Don't look too much to the ground to see what's possible. All right, onward and upward, Sagittarius, here we go. All right. I really want to encourage you guys, the monthlies with the sign of, I don't know, maybe I messed up other ones. Cancer, I was a little confusing in the beginning because I was doing too many in a row. I was still traumatized from July's snafu. But let me just say, because there's so many things happening in the background. We have a square and a half from Pluto to Jupiter. That's like the soundtrack for the first 2.5 weeks of the month. We have this transit yod happening, which is really powerful because, again, that finger of God is making Mercury, Venus, and the sun the apex of its focus, but mostly Mercury, because Mercury is going to go over that point 3 times. All right. And we're on to our Sagittarius's rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Ooh, love this. This is the world card. All the major arcana cards have a much stronger influence. Now the Fool has gotten through almost all of, in fact, all of the various archetypes of the human experience. And now he understands the limitations and how to garnish reward through them. We see the 4 signs, the air, the fire, the earth, and the water all represented in the corners, with the eagle representing the water. This is also where there's a certain vulnerability that we experience in the earthly being in the earth plane. There's no way to get around it. And yet the purple ribbon really represents that connection to the angelic realm that understands the rules, boundaries, and limitations, and then can garnish reward from them. That's a victory wreath. So having 15 degrees Sagittarius rising is so amazing, because you should be able to attract everything you want on this planet. I don't have that. I only have Jupiter. My planets are all kind of dispersed, and they're all sort of in the 6th, 7th, and 8th houses, really, when there's clusters. All right, let's go on for our Sagittarius. So let's see how, 7th house. Okay, yes, partnership, marriage. I always resist that being, because it's such a box. I really like to go into that diplomacy and the peace and the harmony. And when we're in good partnerships, all those things take place. So let's see where we're going. Is that in your natal chart, Jupiter square Pluto? Jupiter is right now in a square and a half to Pluto. And the way that I perceive that is that the square is the box I can see, that I know that I'm stuck in, and the extra half is the one I don't know about. And Pluto's bringing that to the surface, and that is a belief thing, Jupiter's belief system. I'd have to see what houses that's in, but what it would be is that the square would be Jupiter's expansion being offered to you, but the psychological Pluto, the grip of that, whatever that underbelly is fighting with your expansion. Okay. Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We're off to the races. Our first angel is Francesca. What do you visualize? Faith is in the form of Vanessa, frustration in the form of Archangel Uriel. And we have Maya. The king has made his entrance. Look at this boy. Is he something else or what? Love that kid. All right. Francesca is being joined by the swan. Vanessa's being joined by the love card. Archangel Uriel is being joined by Merlin. And Maya is being joined by the queen. Okay, so this is the thing about Sagittarius, right? The Sagittarius has these beautiful points in it. We have the great attractor at 14 degrees. We have the galactic center at 27 degrees. So there's a lot of connection with that which cannot be seen and can be harnessed through our connection to the universe. This is where there's a certain mastery, okay? There's a certain awareness. And now I think that this is Sagittarius getting an opportunity to really start to take those wings and launch out of the pond. And while Francesca will talk about where your focus is, whether it's on something positive or negative, right now I think there's a lot going on swirling around us that can stoke certain things. And so I think that Sagittarius has an opportunity to represent through faith and through their connection to their divine being inside, and through focusing in on, when I say love, okay, I'm not looking at trying to love the asshole that cut me off on the highway. I'm not really looking at that. I'm looking at how can I put myself in a situation to make sure that my vibration is aligned so that when I go to bed at night, I feel a sense of satisfaction and love for myself. Because that honestly will help you love everybody else a lot easier. It really will. Because Sagittarius, we're really working on some kind of frustration. You know, Archangel Uriel talks about unforgiveness. And we don't think of Sagittarius as being unforgiving. We actually think of Sagittarius as like one of the most benevolent signs, but you have your moments, you know, and if people have been rubbing up against you for some reason, this is an opportunity for balance. And I want to say this too, because this is not about an action. It feels much more about a reception of something. Maya is teaching you about the queen, and the queen receives. So I think I've told you guys, when I first started working for myself, I used to always sit on the couch and imagine myself like a movie premiere beam, and people would come and see me. This last week, I've been, you know, I haven't been that busy for me really. And I've thought about, oh no, you know, I need to make money, rent, da, 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 da. At the same time, I understand my own energy on the inside. And I sort of gave myself a break because I know that whenever I'm ready to turn the faucet back on, spirit will be there with you know, the line of phone calls. And when I honor myself and I reward myself and understand that there's certain times when you get to shut down for other people, then you won't feel frustrated or drained. Because if for some reason, you know, you can. Okay. So overall, this is what I want to say for Sagittarius. This week, your ruling planet Jupiter is in a huge conversation. That conversation is in your house of partnerships. Partnerships with not only the people that you might be married to, but the people that you are contractually bound to. It is also an opportunity for you to demonstrate peace, civility, diplomacy, harmony. I mean, those are all the things that are encompassed in that seventh house as well. And when we think about the idea of Gemini, it could just be information that is disrupting your peace of mind. You could be feeling certain trepidations about all sorts of things. There's so many things going on in the world right now. So when you pull back, see the world, so many things going on. When you pull back and you focus in on what sets me aflight, when I believe that, you know what, maybe I'm here to represent the opposite. Maybe I'm not supposed to go into the herd with everyone else and freak out and be all whatever, but represent over here a sense of calm. And in that, I receive and I become the ultimate teacher. And that's what you are. Jupiter is the teacher, the shaman, the medicine man, the travel agent. Pardon me. Can you hear my chime in the background? I just love it so much. It's so subtle. Oh, DJ, that's awesome. You can't hear it. It's very subtle. And I think it's supposed to filter out outside noises, but all right, let's go on to our Capricorns, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, we have the Wheel of Fortune. I think this is really powerful because at the top of the wheel is that Sphinx. And I can't help but notice the black and the white, contrasting experiences, holding the sword of thought. We again see all of the elements represented here, but they're learning still. They haven't see them all with their books. They have not actually learned how the wheel works. And the wheel is a 10. The 10 reduces down to a 1. 1 is the major number of thought. Focused thought is manifestation. It creates. When you're on top of the world is when you're aware of your thoughts and you're aware of the contrast. And if you think about it, the Sphinx is part animal. So the part animal would represent being able to tap into that gut instinct, that animal instinct. All right. Here we go. Capricorn, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Your first angel is Ariel. The second is Bridget. The third is Maya. And the final is Isabella. Ariel's all about connecting to your team, to your inner knowing. I think that's something you've been going through as Pluto has been erupting the underbelly. And that would be what Bridget is offering. Ariel's being joined by the movement card. Bridget's being joined by the focus card. Maya's being joined by the birth and the rebirth card, or what we would call Pluto in this deck. And then we have Isabella being joined by the Lady of the Lake. For my Capricorns, you know, I love my little goats. I mean, nothing makes me happier than watching little baby goats on, well, that's not true, but it's up there. Little baby goats on the social media. But I want to offer this because Pluto always brings something really jarring and unsettling. And forever changes are either our viewpoint or our dynamic. And here, as it re-enters your house in a month, it re-enters your first house, and it gives you an opportunity potentially to see all the things that you have been manifesting, becoming aware of, becoming connected to. And this is where I feel like you're starting to anchor in how you get like the thoughts are things, and you're starting to feel the integration of your soul's inner knowing and your need to build in the physical world, because we are here to build in the physical world. In spirit, we can conceive our strength, but here is where we actually feel it and demonstrate it, because now spirit is saying it's time to look deeper into your focus. And if we look at the 33, it very much reflects Maya offering you this rebirth. And there could potentially be, because Saturn is retrograde in Pisces, it could inadvertently be making you feel a certain amount of almost like the ground you're walking on isn't solid enough. You know, when you walk in sand, and depending upon how moist it is how, you know, whether you can walk easily, or if it's too soft or too wet, you sink into it. Because I feel like that might be what's going on. It's like you're becoming aware of this integration. You're becoming aware of the, you know, your focus, but yet you're still trying to capture your footing with it. You're still trying to feel a sense of it being solid. And spirit is saying, oh, my Capricorns, the human experience is always fraught with a little bit of, you know, the mind is doing one thing, the emotions are doing another, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I think this is really where we see Isabella saying, yes, the timing is right for that. Sometimes Saturn can, you know, put you in a box. It can say, this is how it is. This is how the government rolls. This is how the authority sees it should be done. And then we have that whole idea of the 10th house that you rule being, all my actions are very visible to the outside world, which then makes me vulnerable to criticism or to feeling ridicule. So now I think that this is more about understanding the ebb and the flow of the wheel, and that you're on top when you're aware of the contrasting experiences, and that the mind is encased inside, or the brain is encased inside the head, right? So it's like there's one apparatus inside of another one that operates a lot on its own. So unless you infuse thought into it, it has its own operating system, for lack of a better term. So this awareness for Capricorn makes Pluto's reentry into your house in a month much more palatable and much easier to manage. And this is also, the Lady Lake is about self-respect. It's about putting yourself as a priority. And that's another thing that Capricorn would be kind of like, well, look, we got things to do. We've got responsibilities. We've got, you know, duties. And once all those are completed, then you can look and see if you can, you know, enjoy yourself as an individual. Those things are shifting. All right. Welcome to New Cassandra. Good to see you in the room. We always like to welcome new people into our tribe. Exactly. Respect yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And sometimes that may not be the popular opinion, but you know, everybody's allowed their opinion. And when you know people's opinions don't rub up against your opinions very well, then you just step aside and stay away. Because people's opinions are going to be very loud and boisterous this next few weeks, if not these next few months. And I say that not to scare you. I say that because we're becoming more impassioned as we become more discerning and more aware. And that's a good thing. And how we use that passion is what I think is most important. All right, on to our Aquarius's rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I love that saying. Now, Aquarius, Gemini is your fifth house of I almost said self-pleasure, of pleasure, of your personal expression, putting yourself out in a way where you stand on the stage and allow your genius to be seen. And now we see this Two of Pentacles. This could indicate a couple things. There's a short-term travel associated with this card, but there's also a very strong feeling of what goes around comes around. Everything is infinite, and the flow of money is indicated here. Now, I always laugh at this guy's hat because this guy's hat just seems so not the hat I would pick. So I want to look, because there may be a great focus on the base chakra, or only being able to see. So like this hat indicates some sort of ceiling to me. You see it? And then there's a slight illumination around it. Let's see where we're going. Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And I'm bringing up Gemini energy today because of the beginning of the video. I'm saying this for Cassandra and anybody else who's new in the room. We have a very strong energy in Jupiter and Mars conjunction in Gemini. And while it's growing this week and will become conjunct next week, we're going to feel it everywhere. So it's important to know what the landscape is. So this, for Aquarius, is in your fifth house of high school, of children, meaning school-age children, because we've got that Gemini energy of how you think about these things. So you're going to look at the fifth house as a Leo energy with Gemini superimposed upon it. Yeah, it is really very powerful. I think it's a bit polarizing because on the flip side of it, when we're conscious, we can use the bravery of Mars. We can use the pioneering spirit of Mars. We can use the willingness to take brave action and with our beliefs. But sometimes I think that the discernment comes from the brave action might be just keeping your trap shut, because you're not going to get anywhere rubbing up against somebody else who has their thoughts. We'll see. Flexibility is definitely in order this week. All right, Aquarius. Our first angel is Serena, the angel of abundance. The second is Francesca, talking about focus. Vanessa's about faith over fear. And Maya's about schooling and education. We're all being schooled in the sense of that our minds are things and our thoughts are things. I don't think Spirit is actually teaching us anything as much as we came here to recognize what we know inherently, that our focus kicks in the law of attraction, the law of ebb and flow. Oh, DJ, thank you so much. You're so sweet and so loving. I really appreciate you. Oh my goodness. I hope you have an amazing month. All right, here we go. Serena is being joined by the Joy card. Well, that's fun. Francesca is being joined by the Grail Knight. The Grail Knight could be very Aquarius when you think about it. We have Vanessa being joined by the Owl, which is really pretty. They kind of mirror each other in some way. And then we have the Water Fairy. Okay, so here we have Aquarius representing definitely science, technology, using the mind and the apparatus to figure things out, the genius, propelling ahead. I feel like literally today we're talking about serenity and focusing on what brings you joy. This week may very much stoke. You've got Uranus, your ruling planet is still at the at the end of the Taurus energy. And if I remember correctly, it is in a favorable aspect to Pluto. So there could potentially be epiphanies that unleash you from old dynamics that have held you back. And this sense of joy and peace may not come from the outside world, actually. It may come from very much understanding the ebb and the flow of things. And I'm not talking about this too shall pass. I'm talking about that everything has, like, being flexible is the way to manage the landscape around you. Here we have Francesca talking about negativity, and there could be many people who are, I think that given certain stimuli, we can go down a slippery slope of history repeating itself in a way that we don't want it to. And here, I think for my Aquarius, this is so important to really dig deep into what is most important to you. And almost as if the Grail Knight, again, is kind of representing that freedom fighter, that patriot. And here, I think this is a patriot of the mind, so that as an Aquarius, okay, if my thoughts are things, if my focus is something, then that is my weapon, that is my sword. So I'm going to focus in on the outcome I want. And that could be, it's a win-win for everyone. Whatever happens in whatever the situation is, I know that the highest and greatest good will come for all of us, because the angels are literally saying to Aquarius right now, the earth plane is riddled with contrasting experiences. And will you have faith or fear in that which you have control over, which is on some level your mind or your focus? Now, I know that we can't continually focus like a computer like this. So understanding that ebb and that flow will make it easier, because Maya is here. She's showing up over and over again, offering us more and more education about our inner knowing, our inner voice. And that might be how everything ends up feeling more peaceful. Let me offer it this way. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of something called remote viewing. It's where an intuitive goes into a little box of a room where there's no stimuli, and they connect to something that is miles and miles away. Sometimes it's all the way on the other side of the world. The reason I say that is because this is a scientific, government-used intuitive tool. And while not everybody can be a remote viewer, we all have an inner rudder, an inner knowing. And here it's an opportunity for Aquarius to start using that inner rudder, and know that that inner rudder is to be integrated with the outer world. That's where I'm going. And in your fifth house of creativity, this may be an opportunity for you to express yourself in an authentic way, that instead of feeling too rebellious, you understand the ebb and the flow of the exchange of ideas, principles, thoughts, whatever it is. Okay, on to our Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, for my Pisces, we love this. The sun is shining. This is very Leo, very playful, very vulnerable in many ways. This child is trusting. He's trusting the pony that doesn't have a lot of experience. We also see this cement wall, and the sunflowers have grown above the block. So there's something to celebrate here. Now, if we look at Saturn retrograding in Pisces, your first house, this has been really, for me, a strong energy where I'm connected to my inner knowing. Now, sometimes Pisces doesn't want to connect to their inner knowing, because the inner knowing is saying, run. That person is not great. That person's got issues. That person's going to suck you dry. But Pisces just, but they're so sad. They need me. And I think this might be a little bit of the Leo too, being vulnerable, to be a little bit of a leader in your life, and to really connect with that Saturnian energy that is ambitious for the self. It does have drive for the self. It does want to be a leader and build in the material world. Now, we talk about Gemini being in your fourth house. This could have something to do literally with the home, the family. There's a good possibility that could happen, but you don't have to rage. That's the whole choice part. You might in your head say, you know what? I don't need to give those people that much of my fire. I want my fire. I'm going to keep my fire because it warms me. I tell you the creepiest story that, like, oh my gosh. Well, after this Pisces, I'll tell you a story because it's very Piscean. And it also has to do with being angry and how it did not work. I think I kind of told you, but I'll remind you guys. All right, here we go. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Archangel Gabriel is all about arts and communications. Rosetta is all about the inner child. Opal is about God watching over the inner child. And Adriana is about leading you through your thoughts and your intuitions. And I'll tell you, that's not easy to listen to sometimes, because your thoughts and your intuitions could be very contrary to what others are feeling. Well, that would be DJ. That's kind of quite a comment, because the Virgo energy could have her reassessing her work, and Leo could be like, I'm going to do me. I can't do you anymore. I don't ever advise people doing things the way I do them, because I could put myself in great peril. But I got in a huge pissed off moment when I actually quit my job and started being Teri 10 years ago. The little girl that had run our office just had pushed me too far. And I was like, I'm doing this anymore. And it all worked out, but it wasn't scary. All right, Pisces. We've got double communication in the form of Archangel Gabriel and the communications card, which is even more emphasizing the Gemini energy in your fourth house. We have, did I point it to? I apologize. Rosetta is being joined by the Raven, which is all about like synchronistic events. Opal's being joined by the Water Fairy, and Adriana's being joined by the Focus card. Okay, so here, when we see this, Archangel Gabriel talks about turning over any insecurities you have, that you have a life's purpose in communications and the arts. The sun is Leo. The sun also rules your self-expression. So this could very well be about starting to root yourself within your home. And I want to offer it this way, because we think of home as a place. Home is where the heart is, right? I don't want to quote a Hallmark movie, but Hallmark stole that from someone else, because here the timing is right to let your inner child out to play. And I don't mean, and I want to offer this because I know that Saturn is going through your first house, but Saturn is tasking you. It's saying, be realistic. And when I say be realistic, I'm not talking about, is it realistic I can be in a relationship with somebody, or I can be in a situation with another person or another entity or dynamic. It's how will you be in that? Will you be a leader? Will you be able to express your true communication, your true, you write song lyrics, you write poetry, you choreography, dance, you are able to dream beautiful things. And here God is protecting that sense of creativity, that inner child, and also saying it's time for it to start to come out. And I don't know that it needs to come out to an audience just yet, because with the Jupiter and Mars in the fourth house is making me feel like, I know it could be expansion of arguments within my family over beliefs and over ideologies, okay? Every astrologer will tell you that, so I'm not really going that direction. To me, this is where your home and your heart is, where you get to create a more stable base fourth house energy with your willingness to expand your mind into believing that you're being led into your creativity and it's worthy. I hope that makes sense. I also want to say this, because as I see Lucy's comment, working on self-love and things like that, sometimes we think that, working on self-love is sort of being some sort of always in a good mood kind of person, always amicable to others. Being a disruptor every once in a while, it serves a purpose. It gives somebody an opportunity to display their peaceful energy. I mean, everything's an exchange. And so, when we kind of proceed, I'm not saying it gives me a get out of jail free card to be, naughty, but sometimes our naughty helps someone else to be nice. Now I know I was killed in a past life for my weird thoughts. Okay, I was going to tell you a story. Now I even forgot what the story was. What was I going to tell you? What was the story after Pisces? Does anyone remember? Oh, yeah. You know what? You don't even have to explain anything to them. You could just say, thank you very much. I'm done. You pushed me to, because the interesting thing about that moment was, while I was angry and I was like, can't do this. I also had to sort of eat a little bit of humble pie, because if I wanted to let my anger and quit that job because they were rude to me, I went to an old boyfriend and said, will you bankroll give me this little amount of money so that I can move out of this space? I can't get out of here. And while that person did that at the time, there was a part of me that said, all of these things are happening the way they're supposed to happen, because whatever my intention is for this lifetime was to help all of us claim ourselves in a way that makes us feel like this life is worth living. And if we feel like it's worth living, then we're going to vibrate that out, and others will want that feeling too. So, all right, I was going to tell you a story. What was my story? I can't remember. See, my brain is a sieve. I'm in too many places at one time. Nobody else remembers either. I feel better. So it's not dementia. On to our Aries, rising moon, and stelliums. Wow, I love it. Okay, Aries, look at that. The Empress. She receives, I am in a funny mood, aren't I, Dusk? I'm just feeling, I got maybe too much sleep after my food poisoning. I got to tell you, to see this makes me so happy, because we don't normally think of Venus as being exalted or in good spirits here in Aries, but that's the old ways. Now, this is the feminine energy in Aries, knowing how to be brave and receiving, knowing how to lay back and say, I know that bounty is coming to me, and my connection, my crown of stars is how I rule the land. And I think that's also the North Node in your first house. We have Chiron there as well. But your ruling planet is making a big conversation today. Hey, Audacity Theater, welcome to the room. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. The Jupiter and Mars conjunction, okay? This is going to be in Aries' third house, right? So it could be all about your neighborhoods, your roadways, the people you interact with. I have already started to feel the energy on, I live on this huge highway. It's like the Autobahn. I swear to God, people go down this 80 miles an hour. They all have souped up cars. I mean, this lady today almost ran over me, and lucky because she had to run the light to make her right-hand turn into a neighborhood. You got to watch out. You can't expect people to be watching out. You got to look out. Everybody has to look out. But for my Aries, your roadways, you got to really be careful this week and this month with interacting with others, that you don't lose your mind, okay? And if you're sitting in this energy this week, you should be very successful. Okay, now we have Fiona. Now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. This is the other thing I kind of wanted to say about Mars in Gemini, because I think that's super. Okay, back up for a second. Mars in Gemini 2 years ago really got 7 months worth of reflection on how I interact with other people, and whether I'm harsh and rude or whether I'm enrolling, and all the wonderful hues that are Martian. Now we're revisiting that. We're revisiting that with Jupiter in the mix. My beliefs, all the higher knowledge I've gained over the last 2 years while Mars was traversing the whole rest of the zodiac and coming back into this place, offering a true opportunity to demonstrate how brave you are, how expansive you are, how much bounty you can bring in to your own experience simply through your awareness and your connection to spirit. So we have Fiona saying, now that you ask God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. We have Maya. She's showed up all day because we're clearly learning about our vibration and looking deeper into a situation. The deeper is, just because I haven't seen it happen, does that mean it isn't happening? No, it could mean something better is happening, because Xana is saying that you're protected. Now, let's go on. Aries, Fiona is being joined by the fire fairy. Maya is being joined by the king. Bridget's being joined by the love card. And Xana is being joined by the death card. Okay, this is so awesome. Thank you. I wore this because of this hot energy between Jupiter and Mars. I thought it was very fiery, and yet the little purple was like infusing wisdom and love into all that passion. Because Aries, now that you ask God and the angels for help, be open to receiving optimism, knowing that things are coming to you in a way that potentially is going to be much better than you could have imagined. Because now we have a couple things going on here. The king not only represents male energy, it also represents justice. It represents things pertaining to the law. And here's schooling and education. And I feel like when I look at that, this is potentially the law of attraction, the laws of the universe, and how we are receptive within this universe. And as we sit in that, we become transformational. Because because Aries is, when anger enters a room, it's just palatable, right? People are like, uh-oh, you can cut the tension with a knife. But when Aries transforms that energy from anger into wisdom, that too is palatable, because here's the angels offering, look deeper into the love vibration. And that would be the ebb and the flow, the law of attraction, and how things work. And Aries, I know for myself that the more I focused in on the injustices that had happened to me, the unfairness, I never was reconciled with it. In fact, it felt like it got worse. But once I recognized that my focus, and I realized now that I was transforming, there was a part of me that was meant to learn how to receive from the universe, receive peace of mind, receive support, receive bounty, receive the things that I need. And I think that death card is really the transformation that Aries has been going through with experiencing the nodal structure, the North Node, and especially Chiron. Especially Chiron is a slow moving asteroid. And as Chiron has been moving through the first house, it's been going through each stage of Aries, offering some sort of transformation from a wound to wisdom. And I honestly feel like, for myself, I feel like I've got a whiff of it, and I'm trying to capitalize on it. So I think that's what the protection is about. I think of this one woman that I know that's really kind of an interesting woman. She thinks she's a very nice woman, but she says really weird things like, well, that person deserves to die. And I'm like, oh, who are you to serve, So I know that during this next couple of weeks, I will be avoiding her because she says weird stuff that I don't want to react to. So Aries, that's another thing. You may be protected because you're learning how not to react, but to make choice. You'd be surprised some of the things people feel entitled to say about other people because they just deem them certain. This is why I like the movie The Shack, because there's this whole big scene about with wisdom. The movie The Shack, the main character Mac meets with wisdom, and wisdom encourages him in many ways through sort of a hard experience about judgment. So, all right, here we go. On to our Taurus rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. The judgment card is up. This is huge. This is Pluto. This is definitely a rising from the Phoenix. This is a heralding of some kind, of a new day, a new dawn. We have one of the little bit of challenges is that the planets Mercury, Venus, and the Sun are all going to come into a square with Uranus over this month. And Venus will do that once, but Mercury is going to do it 3 times. So that's when we look up, I just looked up and saw the word. That's where we hear or we feel the contrasting experience between futuristic thoughts, being Uranus, genius, wanting to break up the old structures that don't serve us, and Mercury, more of my everyday thoughts and how my everyday life works. And Mercury could feel very threatened by Uranus's energy. I don't want to shift everything. It's too much. So here, let's go. Oh my gosh, the moon, without a doubt, to me is the most powerful planet, especially when I do charts and I find strong planetary aspects to the moon. You can literally see them play out. There's a person that I know who has their moon conjunct Rahu in Leo in the 8th house. And literally this man is a grown ass man that can apply for Medicare, and he pouts like a baby. No offense to Leos. We all have our contrasting energies within our stuff, but he's very entitled within that, can be, which is the lower side of Leo, and with that scorpion flare of the 8th house. All right, Taurus, let's see where this Plutonian energy is coming in. Our first angel is Mystique. The second is Rochelle. The third is Archangel Gabriel. And the final is, wow, Omega. We've got 2 unicorns. That's pretty cool. And they're both really good energies. So keep charging ahead, because, this is what I want to say too. That when I see the Judgment card, oftentimes we fear, oh, we've died, because literally they're coming from the coffin, but they're illuminated. Their bodies are blue and icy feeling, but their mind now is powerful. And that is where the real Plutonian energy works for us. So this could be what's happening, is Taurus is having awarenesses now. Mystique is being joined by the Trust card. Rochelle's being joined by the Spider. Archangel Gabriel's being joined by the Joy card. And Omega is being joined by Merlin. Okay, this is everything to do with the way you think, because the 47 reduces down to an 11. And this trust is not about trusting something outside of yourself, but trusting all the epiphanies and all the awarenesses that Uranus has brought into your experience. When Uranus transited over my rising sign, the 26-degree Aries, I wasn't studying astrology at the time. I didn't know that my rebellion was going to lead to my independence, because this is about having a relationship with your heart and knowing that your heart is the true north that has to tell you, and your moon is your true north. So here, I believe that you're absolutely going to experience yourself in a 2.0 version, because you're starting to become aware of your self-talk, this historic self-talk, and then the 37 reduces down to a 10. 47 reduces down to an 11, and now we have Merlin that has a 1. So here we have balance and alchemy, and then we have victory in the form of Omega. And so we literally see that our Tauruses feel like they're coming out of the dark, and they're feeling so much lighter, because it isn't about the outside experience necessarily changing as much as it could be about the interior experience changing. And that could very well have been the transit of Jupiter going through your first house, offering you a revision or a higher education in your belief system or in how your focus is. So I think this is really, really amazing. And the trust part, to me, again, is not trusting the outside world. It's that trusting my inner knowing. There are certain things when I ask myself a question, do I believe that, this is going to happen? And I have no outside evidence. And yet there's a definite yes or a definite no. I trust that. When I was a little girl, well, I wasn't little. When I was a teenager, there were a lot of serial killers. There was the Hillside Strangler and I don't know, whoever else. But I remember during the Hillside Strangler phase that I was kind of scared. It was a lot of stories, and I was young and I felt very vulnerable. And I said to myself, is that really something you've signed up for, to be, tortured and and I never got a yes out of it. Now, did I run around testing it like in the middle of the night? No, but I've always felt a sense of protection. So my point is, Taurus, when you go into those historic feelings, you'll start to feel a deeper sense of the yes or the no, and trusting that will be your anchor. It'll be your foundation. All right. It was a really gnarly time. Okay, here we go. Oh, Gemini. Look at that, the Emperor. This is Mars. This is Aries. Could this be more independent thought? Act to be the, this is the thing. This Emperor is no king. He's an emperor. He rules over the kings. So this is really about self-assertion. This is about taking the reins. This is about, in many ways, paying attention to, are you ramming something with your head? Let's see. Or feeling it, obviously, with your heart. And your head will always go the back and forth part, this, that, but your heart will usually have one focus. The Hierophant also represents the Taurus energy. If you look at it, there's little bull heads on the throne. So there's a Venusian dynamic to it. Okay, here we go. The Emperor is being joined by Isabella. Yes, the timing is right to assert yourself, to be the emperor in your own life. We have Vanessa. Will you make your decisions based on faith or fear? We have Fiona saying, now that you ask God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And then we have Aurora saying, you're flying high right now, don't descend. That descension would be to go into old habits as your ruling planet retrogrades. And it's going to retrograde back into your third house. Let me think. Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Yeah, so that, and the fourth house. So you could have this, energy of, what are my family responsibilities? What do I have to get done? And that would also make the focus of the yod there on the cusp of your third and your fourth house. So this is very powerful for you and a great opportunity for you to direct your thoughts, and then other people will experience magic from you. And it's really not truly magic, it's alignment. Okay, Isabella is being joined by the novice. So this is going to be, yes, the timing is right to start this new, really, honestly, this guy takes no prisoners. He's not consulting other people, okay? He knows what he wants, and he's going to get it. That's why he's all red. Vanessa is being joined by the protection card. Faith is your protection. Fiona is being joined by the swan, allowing your intuitiveness to supersede your brain, which is not easy for Gemini to do. And then we have Aurora being joined by the transformational death card. I really think that this is a time when, this is what I want to say, because never expect your brain to not be your brain. Never expect it to just think, oh, good. It's always going to do this. Doesn't matter how far along the road you get, because the protection card is a 38, which reduces down to an 11. And it's the awareness. That's all. Okay, here I go. There's my brain again. And that's when spirit swoops in and shows you something in the physical experience that then further anchors you into this believing that you can fly off and you can soar. And the death card is a 46, which reduces down to a 1. So again, here we're seeing these thoughts are things. I could even somehow infer the 12 is a 3, which we could take into the mercurial energy of the third house and Gemini. So I want to offer this week. You may find yourself, now I'm going to be very loving about this, but when we talk about, here's Gemini, this conjunction is happening in your first house of self. If somebody inadvertently assaults your mind, says something to you, I don't think they're going to physically touch you, but this is an opportunity to really decipher whether that person's worth your energy. I know what I was going to tell you. I remember what it was. I got so pissed off. Okay, so this is why I'm going to tell you, because this could potentially bring up annoyance or anger or some kind of somebody saying you're not being the emperor in your life. You're not asserting yourself. So now you do that, and there's a transformation. And first it starts with the mind and then the head. So let me tell you the story. So a few weeks ago, I have this neighbor. You see my dish thing? Okay. See all the bushes behind it? She is illegally grown her bushes so that the whole building of Ocean Views has been blocked so that she doesn't have to see our ugly building, right? And she's just this mean table for one lady who doesn't care about anybody but herself. And it's really obvious in her speech. She just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like her. Oh yeah, Lucy. And she didn't make any of it. She married it. And she thinks that she likes to hire men because she likes to boss men around. She's got a lot of issues. So she made me really angry one day, and I was throwing energy balls at her. Of course, it was exactly, I was like, I felt like Xena warrior princess, and I was doing this, and it was not good for me. Okay. Because I was so hot. Lucky, and I don't know, within this experience, Lucky started breathing really hard. He was sleeping underneath the desk right there, as peacefully as he is right now. And all of a sudden he just starts like he's having a panic attack. And I swear to God, I thought, oh my God, he got those energy balls, not the lady, because he's so sensitive and she's such a hard ass bitch. Pardon my language. Lucy Lawless, love her. I was totally like into the Xena. So I realize I can't do that anymore because Spirit has shown me that that is how powerful I am, and that my anger only hurts me. And even though, I mean, all night long I was giving Lucky Reiki to try to over to compensate, and he got over it. I don't know what it was. We don't know. I mean, maybe it was a physical something, but the timing of it and the weirdness of it, it was just one other thing where Spirit was like, Teri, your Aries anger and your Taurus moon are just way too stubborn sometimes, and you have to start to behave in a way that creates a win-win and not let yourself run amok, because I can really think I'm right and you're wrong. And I'm sure she thinks the same damn thing. She's right and I'm wrong. Okay, so that was my story. All right, so we're going to our final sign, Cancer. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see what your card is. Oh, the 10 of Wands. This guy's clearly working hard. He's clearly not doing things in the most easy way that he could do them. Well, she's just, look, her days, she's going to get hers. Don't you worry, because I am the emperor. All right, but this is what I want to say for my Cancers. This is burden, carrying too much. We know that as, I didn't mention this before, but Pluto's going to be at 0 degrees almost the whole month, because it moves back into Capricorn on, I think, the 1st of September, if I remember correctly. That 0 degree is going to be very, very strong, and it's going to create an opposition to the house of Cancer. And so within that, late born Cancers will feel that energy. And this 10, if you look at it, is also reduces down to a 1. So you could inadvertently be thinking about all the obligations, all the things that I have to do to get things done. Jules, I swear, I think the more that we stand in awareness of where we feel burdened or where we feel the injustice, when we descend into the reactive energy, then our animals remind us who we really are, because we can be angry but not reactive. And I think that's the big difference. All right, here we go. They do know. They know like nobody's business. Okay, Cancer, let's look and see where we're feeling this energy of burden or working too hard or feeling like things are heavy. Aurora says you're flying high right now. Don't descend. The descend would be into this energy. Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and your desires. Patience is about observation. And Archangel Michael is about courage. Okay, so you guys, I've been on this journey of awareness since the day I came out of the womb. But for about 45, 50 years, I struggled with always feeling the annoyance. I would say this, probably from the time I was 21, when my sister and when I had a very Plutonian experience with my sister. And then from there, I would see two halves of myself. I would see an evolved version of myself, and then I would see this old version of myself. And it was the hardest period of my own spiritual journey, because part of me wanted to just default to that old pissed off, and then I would hear the calling to a higher vibration, and I'd be like, ugh! And I was, ugh! That's how I felt for such a long time. It's the hardest stage of awareness, because you're not settled into the new awareness and you're not out of the old awareness, and it's just infuriating. So you might be going through a little of that. That's where I'm going. All right, Aurora is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Exactly. You're going through a rebirth of awareness, and sometimes it just feels like, oh God, I don't want to do this anymore. Astera says to reach for the stars. Don't let yourself descend into frustration and anger. And it's easy to do right now. It could be very easy to do, because that Jupiter-Mars conjunction, and that for you is happening in your 12th house. Okay. Patience and the disruption card. This is in the angel's advice. Sometimes disruption actually serves. You cannot eat an egg without breaking the shell, because right now, while we have certain things that we'd like to default back to, feel comfortable with. Yes, we're on Cancer, Jenny. Welcome to the room. It is the last sign of the day, though, because the final one is Archangel Michael asking Cancer to know that timing is everything and that you're being protected during this, and that it is a time for a rebirth for all of us. And yes, it does feel a little shaky. You know, if we think about Cancer, we talk about Cancer rising. Okay, so this would be Cancer first house, but Cancer naturally rules the fourth house. The fourth house rules our country of origin. And so many of us around the world are feeling challenges within our countries of origin, or we feel the rumblings of the world kind of shifting around and recalibrating. So I think that the best thing we can do during this week is, rather than looking at the burden, we continue to understand that sometimes disruption is divine. And without it, we would never be able to ascend to greater levels of happiness. And so Archangel Michael is asking us to have the courage to see that there are certain things, that there are certain momentums, historic momentums, that we as a soul choose to walk through, because even though they appear disruptive, they house the most magic. And here, this is a 10 that reduces down to a 1. We started with a 10 and we end with a 10. You can look, Cancer, at the burden of what we're walking through right now and how it's so hard, or we can start to see a bigger picture of what's being offered to us and understand the synchronistic events can bring in magic. So try your best to stay away from everybody who opposes your personal beliefs this next couple of weeks. And I don't say it because you can't engage with people. I just don't want anybody getting into personal wars with the people that they love over things that, you know, I don't know. There's so much to talk about. You know, all you have to do is turn the news on at any given moment. So, yes, happy Mercury retrograde. But more than that, I think that the yods are, that this transit yod, which is, again, we're experiencing Venus on the yod tomorrow. She'll be exact at 0 degrees before I think it's tomorrow. No, later today. Later today, she'll actually move into, I think it's like at 10 o'clock at night, she'll move into Virgo. Mercury's going to retrograde at 10 o'clock tonight. They're going to pass each other, and the Mercury's going to go back into that yod this week. And so there'll be this finger of God, this blind spot that will call you forth to trust your inner knowing, that whatever is happening on the outside does not dictate what will happen on the inside, because that focused thought can bring in magic and miracles that others can't tap into because they're too busy focused on the burden. Okay, that's it. I talked a little longer today. Been trying to keep it down to an hour and a half, but these transits are no yoke. So do your best. I'm really happy that I live a very contained life. I'm going to be very quiet this week, keep myself might even keep a little bit of tape in my pocket in case I need it. All right, everybody, sending lots of love to you. I'll see you next week, where we will be going into another very, very energetically charged week. So we'll see you all soon. And again, I want to thank you, DJ. You're so generous, and I just feel the love so much. Have a great week, everybody. If you want to book a reading, my information is below in the description, and I'm becoming more available. All right. See you next week, everybody. Be gentle with yourself and open the envelope.